Hi, let's talk about GERD. One of the first, most immediate treatment protocols for any acid reflux, GERD, etc., heartburn, are jumping right into PPIs, these proton pump inhibitors. And that could be over-the-counter PPIs, Tums, or they could also Nexium, but also a lot of people are getting onto omeprazole and some of these stronger pharmaceuticals. Now, there is absolutely a time and a place, trust me. When there is an acute flare-up, ulcers, we've got to get the burning under control. We've got to get the acid under control. But I don't think it's any secret any longer that long-term use of these pharmaceutical PPIs spell danger for many of us, especially as we age, and that they dry up the intestinal lining so much and for so long that we become more susceptible to conditions like pneumonia and, God forbid, C. diff. Anyway, so that's the bad news. Let's talk about the good news. The good news is if you are struggling with GERD or acid reflux, we've got some support for you, some things that you might not have thought of. So first of all, consider melatonin, right? Melatonin for GERD? What's up with that? Well, here's what's up with that. Melatonin has been detected in our enteroendocrine cells in the GI tract wall, right? Who knew? So in a Biomed Central study recently, the mean melatonin level was significantly lower in all patients who had GERD and recurrent duodenal ulcers. So the study put these people on melatonin supplementation. And I think the study was like up to 6 milligrams of melatonin. Now, I'm a fan of starting low and going slow. So one of the things that I learned in my integrative nutrition studies back in the COVID days is that 3 milligrams of melatonin before bed can work wonders for the symptoms of GERD, and also, as a side effect, help you sleep at night, which is great. So melatonin, consider that. Now, another something is coffee. I know coffee is so hard to get off of. And full disclosure, I love a good cup of coffee once every couple of weeks. I'm not totally anti-coffee, but if you're struggling with hyperacidity, coffee has got to go. Now, I will never take anything away from you without giving you a sufficient substitute. And here it is. It's called Teeccino. That's T, capital Teeccino. You can find Teeccino probably at many of your local healthy grocery stores. You can definitely find it online at teeccino.com. Now, one of the things about coffee that makes it so hard to reduce from our daily ritual is, well, the ritual itself of coffee. There's so much, it's so sensual, right? I mean, it smells good, it feels good in your hand, it's got that heavy, bold mouth feel. I mean, Earl Grey just doesn't cut it. Green tea, love it, but it just doesn't cut it when you're looking for that hearty, bold, coffee's like the heavy cab of morning beverages, right? Don't drink Cabernet for morning beverage. That's a whole nother video that we can get into later. But anyway, but coffee's got that big mouthfeel, right, that we're looking for. Well, I have discovered that Teeccino provides that mouthfeel. It's bold, it's rich, it's got an extraordinary aroma, and you add just a little oat milk or almond milk, or if you really want to get decadent, put some cashew or pistachio milk into your Teeccino, and I promise you, I think it's going to rock your world. So it certainly has mine and many of my clients. So if you're a Teeccino fan, shout out. Okay, last thing that I want to drop in, well, I'll give you 2 more things. So the third thing would be DGL, deglycerinized licorice. And DGL, you can take these in chewables, getting back to the GERD, right? You can take these in chewables, and I want to say, let's see, what was I looking at? About 750 milligrams twice a day, and the chewables are better, especially if you are on or have been on the antacids, because your mucosal lining is like completely dried up, right? So we want to moisturize and soothe that internal lining. So the chewables are really good for that. Take 2 chewables right before or maybe even right after your largest meal of the day. Hopefully that's lunch. And then also take 2 chewables before bed. So all in all, you're going to take about 750 milligrams twice a day. lunchtime and then in the evening. Okay, the last thing I want to suggest to you to help you get through this hellacious that's going on in your GI tract, angry, GERD, is some herbs. You can make this herbal infusion that is lovely, and it consists of calendula, which is marigold. It consists of chamomile blossoms, and then the two heavy hitters, or three heavy hitters in this really, are slippery elm, marshmallow root, and licorice root. And if you can get those three, or at least two of those three into this infusion, you'll be doing great. And then, you know, any sort of, if you can't find calendula, but you can find chamomile, that's fine. That's okay. Don't hold your feet to the fire on that. The heavy hitters are the slippery elm, marshmallow root, and licorice root. Any two or all three of those are really going to be helpful. And then add in some marigold, add in some chamomile, and then you can add just a skosh of dried chopped ginger, not the powder, but dried chopped ginger, just a little bit. So to make this infusion, you're going to take 2 ounces of each of the herbs that you have found, except the ginger. Put that on the back shelf for now. Take 2 ounces of each of these herbs, mix them all together, and then put them in a big mason jar, and boom, there's your tea. Then every day you'll take a handful of this herb. I mean, you know, you can take a half a cup, or maybe a cup is a handful. Take a handful of this concoction, put it into the bottom of a French press, pour 2 cups of boiling water over it, let it steep for at least 30 minutes before you hit that plunger. And then I want you to drink a half a cup of this twice a day. The other cup you can store in the refrigerator and drink it the next day. So you can make this tea like every other day. And this will be so soothing and healing to your GI tract. So if you've been struggling with GERD, struggling with reflux, or you've had gastritis, or you're dealing with some ulcers, or trying to recover from any of these conditions, by all means, this is the way to go. Now, last thing I'll say from an Ayurvedic perspective, GERD and acid reflux, absolutely. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's my pitta, I'm so on fire. Yeah, babe, you are totally on fire. However, let us not discount the winds of vata, right? Once you wrap your head around the 3 doshas and you've really got a good grip on vata, pitta, and kapha, then it's time to unpack the 5 sub-doshas. Yes, that's right. Each dosha has 5 sub-doshas that are localized in certain areas of our body that govern the physiology of those areas. And good old Vata has 5 winds. And these winds are supposed to be moving in very specific directions when we're balanced and operating like a smooth, well-oiled machine. GERD is symptomatic of the winds that's supposed to be moving downward, apana, moving up, and the winds that are moving up, moving in all crazy directions. So we have absolute evidence, well, I mean, I say absolute evidence, I'm talking like in my brain, no scientists are studying the winds right now that I'm aware of. Maybe they are in India, but we do know when the winds of our body, the 5 winds of Vata, have gone bananas and they're moving in the directions they're not supposed to be moving, then GERD is certainly one of the results of that combination. So what do we do to harness the winds of Vata? Well, quite simply, 3 things. Routine, number 2 is routine, and number 3 is routine. So you've got to hit that routine around the areas of when you go to bed, when you wake up, and especially when you eat, when you're dealing with GERD and hyperacidity and acid reflux. Try to arrange your meals so that you're eating smaller meals. If you need to have 4 meals a day, go for it, but keep your meals small, keep them consistent, and by all means, stay off the Cholula.